Welcome to the March 20th edition of the PFF Forecast. We have a great show today. Just like last year, March 20th. It's going to be a great podcast. I anticipate it'll be a little better than last year's. We're going to talk. Eric has some phenomenal advice on betting the NCAA Tournament. He's absolutely been cleaning up. We're going to talk a little F1 as well at the end of the podcast, along with recommendations. We're going to talk about the new kind of balance of power, if there is one, in the NFL with the Deshaun Watson news and how we're approaching that from a human standpoint as well. It should be a great podcast. Let's rock. Last night made the proclamation, let everyone know as we were watching the tournament with a good group of PFF amigos.
For your birthday. Happy birthday, by
Thank
the way.
you. Thank you.
29 again.
Yeah, this is 22. So we're sitting there. I'll set the stage here, but it's actually good advice for everybody. So we're sitting around, we're playing poker, and everyone has a bracket. And everyone's rooting for, we're watching, at that point, it was St. Pete's.
And against Murray State.
Yeah, it was on the warpath. And everyone's rooting for St. Pete's. No one really has like Murray State going far. But you have bet on Murray State. And everyone's like, Eric, like, who do you have in your bracket? Like, why do you care about Murray State? And your line was...
I've been bracket free since 93.
Yeah. Makes this big to-do about how you don't have a bracket, you don't need a bracket, and the reason for that is you, quote, bet real money. And so the funniest thing about this is Eric is sitting there just rooting so loudly for, whichever team
I'm loud to begin with.
Yeah, you're a loud guy to begin with on whatever team that you're rooting for. But we're trying to play poker during this, and the funniest part is that you have no idea what's going on in this poker game. You don't even know what the denominations of the chips are. So you'll be sitting there looking at television, yelling at the TV. It'll get to you, and you're just tossing chips out, the wrong denomination and amounts. But that said, you made a lot of money on college basketball last night.
Yeah, Murray State notwithstanding. But, like, truth be told, I don't have a model for college basketball. I don't even watch college basketball. I couldn't tell you.
No one watches college basketball. Let's be clear.
I couldn't tell you the first person on any of these teams. But I think that this is good advice, and I'll sort of paint it with what happened in the national title game, right? Mm-hmm. So, or the semifinal game, Georgia against Michigan. Michigan plus 7.5. Every single person on and the betting media is becoming extremely big now, right? Like, it's people who and the real reason why sharp sports bettors have a chance is that they only have to bet on a certain amount of games, right? The sports book has to give a line for every game, right? And so that's what the opportunities are. I think the problem is, though, you have this like confluence of sports betting media who have to give feel like they have to give a pick on every single game, or they have to have an opinion on everything, right? And
their incentive is different, right?
Their incentive is different. Yeah,
they're trying to create
engagement. We saw
that
with the $1.50 betting slip.
That was incredible. I forgot about that.
And the issue is I think that this is where, if you don't have a model, or you're just like me, and I'm a little bit trying to be more serious than this, but if you are just trying to bet on a random game that's happening and you don't want to do research, you don't want to have a model or anything like that, like, if every single person in the sports betting media seems to be on the same side of a game and the number doesn't move, like, that's telling you something.
And so I'm glad I brought up this story, and I wanted to talk about it because it's funny, but I actually am curious about you say if you don't have a model, you could use this, right? In a sense, this is a model of sorts. Right? And if you think about what the features of the model are, you are basically taking a sentiment analysis of a subset of, let's just call it social media, let's call it Twitter, but you could expand it if you wanted. And the other feature that you're taking is, the line moving during certain periods of time, right? And if you're seeing a lot of sentiment in one direction and a line not moving accordingly, it is an interesting set of features to consider.
Yeah.
Would you consider this? Now, I think the NFL, my hypothesis is that NFL spreads and totals are a little too hard to include this kind of information in, because the money that is being bet on is so massive and there are so many bets that a bunch of donkeys talking about it on social media is probably not going to be super useful. But
college basketball, I saw a college basketball total when the Right Angle Sports guys gave out one of their picks. Total in college basketball moved 4 points, right? Like, you're not short of like weather, like, Buffalo, New England type game, you're not getting a move that big. Like the opening line, well, for one, like the way that this thing works is like the opening lines they're originated with models, but even like there's some betting that happens prior to when we see things on screen, right? So like they're getting opinions to shape this line for those big markets even before any of us see them, right? And so
and opinions from both bookmakers and bettors, right?
Like, because that's part of the shtick. And then and we saw this in the Philadelphia Tampa Bay game in the playoffs, where then as limits go up throughout the week, you do see late week changes because these groups don't feel it's worthwhile to get down early in the week when limits are low. Right. And then when limits are basically infinite in some places, you can get the bet down. So we saw that line move from like 9 to 7.5 because of sharp movement. And I'm not saying sharp, I'm just saying like sharp movement, a group that's considered sharp, moving the line there. And to me, I think that's the NFL, I think, is not going to be possible to sort of do this thing. Yeah. But for something where everybody feels compelled to have an opinion, and again,
which is going to be, by the way, more and more things.
Yeah, more and more things.
As you're thinking, so kind of go down this road with me. And this podcast has become a lot more discussion based, which I do hope people enjoy because I enjoy it more. But let's say that you're trying to quickly build a set of models for sports that you're entering, right? So, you're talking about college basketball, and, we could think about this for any sport. You can think about it for F1 as well as it becomes popular in America. The idea of having sentiment analysis that you can actually scale quickly, that seems a lot more tenable. Like, if you can build a sentiment analysis on football, you should be able to do it pretty quickly for other sports, right? Whereas like going out and curating data and learning about which data matters and doing all those things, which yes, may give you a much more pointed view, is a lot harder. Right. So you might actually be able to do this. Would you does that sound right to you? Would you try that?
I think I would. I mean, here, because the main tenet of it is the public does not move betting markets. The public does not move betting markets, right? So everybody betting a certain side of a game, like people who would watch betting media and bet are probably not moving markets. Let's be honest. That or the masses of like 90%, let's say. And so and I would include most media members in that as well, where they say everybody. So in the first round, everybody loved Iowa or South Dakota State. Every single person I saw on Twitter loved South Dakota State, South Dakota State. And it was just like, that point spread is not moving. Yeah. And until close, it moved like two points in Providence's direction. Because again, it was one of those where it's like, either if that line is staying the same, then and every single person in sports betting media believes it's wrong, then in my opinion, I trust the number first, right? So everybody in sports media on this side is missing something fundamental if it's not moving at all with their opinion, i.e. there aren't sharp people who agree with them to move it. And in fact, at the end of the week or at near close, when there's more of an incentive for a really sharp group to bet it because the limits are higher, it actually moves in the other direction. That, to me, if you can get that, and you got that with Providence actually in both of their games of the tournament, you actually have something, right? And so that's kind of, because again, our thesis, and this was not always our thesis, and it's why we struggled at, there were early on in our tenure, we did well, and then we struggled for a while, and then now we're doing better, pretty good actually now. And it's like, one of the reasons I think that we've gotten better is like you trust, you understand what goes into a betting line. You understand that like, if the line's been there for a long time, especially in a sharp market, then and everybody believes it's wrong, then there's something that everybody's missing out on that's not causing that number to move.
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about this, and we've talked a bunch about it off air, but the symmetry between the sports betting market and the financial market. Now, there's some key differences. One of them is that like the ability to bet on a stock is almost infinitely X what it is on a game, right? And a lot of that is because sports books control it. But you could look off into the distance and you could think about, I don't know if it ever could get to this level, but I don't think that's the point. The point would be you could see a place where betting on sports is similar to betting on stocks, in that there are enough people and there's enough money out there that it can be more of an exchange and a trade between people, right? Whereas right now there really isn't the scale to have a betting exchange, even though there's a lot of places that have tried it. The scale to have a betting exchange and the technology behind it to have a unified one kind of globally, or at least across America, is not really there. But as it becomes there, you have a lot more liquidity and you can actually... It becomes a lot like the stock market. And you think about the stock market, I think your analogy is perfect. If I go turn on, CNBC and I watch, what's his name? Kramer?
Yeah.
Like I watch this guy like foaming at the mouth, having an aneurysm about like different stock picks, right?
Yeah.
Because like may God help you, right? If you're listening to that, what do you actually want to listen to? Like who are the sharp people? Like you think about you think about Berkshire Hathaway when they make a decision, right? They go out and buy, 5% of Apple or whatever they own in 2017 or whatever. And you think of that as like a sharp move that you can follow. A lot of the times I think there is similarity there where there's so many people now starting to talk about it, kind of like the stock market.
Yeah.
And you can kind of identify where these things where it's like, okay, a lot of times these people are going to talk about things, but the difference is in the stock market, there's enough. If the public starts buying something, it will move in price.
Well, that's
the edge that you can kind of get, right? Where it's like now until that happens, because that's not happening here in sports betting, like you can kind of get that little bit of
that's like the
edge.
whole thing is like these, and it's somewhat like, so it's sort of one of those things where, like for example, I was wrong about the Rams' potential this year. Like I thought that they'd be very limited. I did not think they were going to win the Super Bowl. But at the same time, and like I put my money where my mouth was as far as, game to game, right? And we've gotten a lot of like messages and flack about the Rams because they won the Super Bowl, and
we've been Ramsplained.
We were Ramsplained, and every once in a while I'll just reply and be like, well, like if you bet against the Rams all year, you broke even, right? They were 10-11 against the spread, so like I'm like And with other teams, it's so remember the Jaguars back when we said they weren't going to be any good in 2018, or the Bears in 2019. It's like if you truly disagree with us, bet it. Bet it, because that's like my whole point about like if everybody is on one side talking about it, and the number doesn't move unless somebody sharp bets it. The all those opinions are more or less, they're entertainment, right? But like from a predictive standpoint, I think that them piling up on one side is to me, if anything, giving you a reason to bet the other side. And at worst, it's letting me know there's no edge in betting that side, kind of thing.
Yeah. Funny Rams story. Before the season started, when Stafford got traded to the Rams, I don't remember what the occasion was, but I was like I think I was in like a swimming pool, and some guy was talking about like, you hear football conversations, you're not a part of them, but you like think these are kind of funny. And this guy was telling his buddies about how the Rams are going to be so amazing with Matt Stafford. And he said something to the effect of like, yeah, I'd bet anyone like that the Rams, I think he said 13 games. It's more than 13 games. He said more than 13 games. And I turned around and I was like, how much do you want to put on it? And his girlfriend's like sitting over there, and she like perks up, and he's like, what do you want? I was like, I'll put $5,000 on it right now. like 13. 13's.
Yeah.
I said 13 can be a push. Over 13, you win. Yeah. And his girlfriend comes in. And is like, no, honey, please don't.
And that's the thing. And there'll be somebody who will come at me with, more capitalized than we are and stuff, and say the same thing. And ultimately, that in poker, and I don't, as you found out last night, I don't know the first thing in many cases, but like the taller the stack you have, oftentimes the sharper you are, right? Like, because you can lean on people, and I think that's also a big thing too, where you really do have to realize like what bettors are doing. Like if you have a ton of capital, you in many cases are. I mean, that's really the only time where like arbing or middling and stuff like that is super profitable. Obviously, you can decrease your variance in doing it if you don't bet a ton of money, but like a percent or two at a time, like really adds up when you have a ton of a ton of that versus but that's not even sexy though, right? The sexy thing is to tell the $25 bettor what to do, right? And that's to me, I think where I'm finding at least some enjoyment in this tournament that I don't know anything about and I still want to bet.
By the way, my bet on the tournament is on Duke. I knew everyone was going to pick Gonzaga, so I'm the guy rooting for Duke.
Gonzaga's had 2 games now where they have not looked up to their seed. So.
Yeah, and we'll find out. I told you guys last week that Purdue was the team that was going to that I thought was going to be great, and they're surely going to get tripped up. They play Texas today. We'll see. Kentucky already fell prey to that. Before we move on, reminder: you can get 25% off any PFF subscription with promo code Forecast. That means you can read all of the great content at PFF that includes the good doctor's work over here, all the great betting and draft content as we lead up to the draft, and of course, all of the great fantasy, NFL, and betting content that comes your way during the season. Plus, get the NFL Draft Guide, unlock the Mock Draft Simulator, 2022 free agency rankings, data, PFF grades, and more from the entire 2021 season with 25% off for an elite subscription that is less than $3 a month. So go make it happen. If you are a bettor like Eric and I, get an elite subscription, a year-long subscription. It is a great deal, just over $10 a month, and you will be set up for success. All right, we have to talk about this because it has been talked about. We don't have to talk about it, but we want to talk about it because it has been discussed in what my opinion is a reprehensible way, and that is the Deshaun Watson thing. All the way up until this morning when the Browns, I don't know if you saw this, but the Browns made the trade official and released statements from Stefanski, Haslam, and Andrew Berry. And they were pathetic. I've just got to say. They were absolutely pathetic. None of them even come remotely close to talking about the simple fact that this man has been accused by 22 different people of sexual misconduct. Apparently, there are many, many more that are out there. Kind of a total disaster. And so I think it's important that we talk about it in a human way, that we condemn, what this is about. I think it's absolutely pathetic that teams just rolled out the red carpet and claimed
made it sort of a sweepstakes was probably the most abhorrent thing.
Yeah, claimed that that they had done like this massive investigation and were now comfortable with it, and it's like it's just awful. So I want you have a great idea on how we can kind of act like humans in this situation.
Yeah, the hard part is that there's a few things that are really tough about this. The one thing is that at some point this was going to happen, and I don't know how we as a league or as a community really like. I don't understand where the Browns, Falcons, the Panthers, and the Saints like who they thought they were doing this, right? Like there had to be some sort of like, I essentially what they're hoping that happens is that this is going to abate and people are going to forget and people are going to still love the Browns when Deshaun Watson throws for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Ravens and they win a game. And far be it from me to tell you how to root for your like my Tyreek Hill plays for my favorite team, and I try my best not to gush about him in a way that is unbecoming, and I try to make sure that like they're but it's almost impossible to root for an NFL team because there's no teams full of choir boys. Every single team has somebody who has done important things. So far be it for me to judge anybody if they still want to root for the Browns. I think we do have to, and also this is also a disappointing thing. There are also people within the Browns organization who many people respect and who we respect. Like as you know, as before all of this, and then we understand the realities of if the owner or whomever wants it done, it's going to get done, right? And it's just sad. I think that obviously now, you know, our opinions of some of these people are never going to change, right? And so are never going to be the same. But there are, you know, again, all of that's really hard. We're going to try on this show to still obviously to cover the AFC North, to cover the AFC, to cover the NFL, to cover Deshaun Watson. But we want to make sure, because I think the hardest thing, and something that I don't think, like, I can't relate to because I've never gone through it. But like every single time we trivialize what Deshaun Watson's being accused of, credibly accused of, we might be bringing other people memories or PTSD and things like that I think that the average person who hasn't thought about this for 3 seconds, you know, doesn't appreciate, right? And so people in the media, when they flippantly say some of these things, I don't think they know what the damage they're doing. So what we're going to do in this pod, we're going to donate here, and this is because we live in Ohio, not because Cleveland is in Ohio, but we're donating to the Ohio Alliance to End Sexual Violence. We'll put a link with the podcast. Yes. We will continue to, our promise to the listeners, the syndicate, is that we will handle this as well as we can, understanding that this is nothing we wanted, right? Like as far as a league that we cover.
And it was a great idea by you. And I think the right way to do this, and you can disagree, and if you disagree, I'd love to hear your thoughts and how you think it should be handled. But you want to cover the game of football, but doing so in a way that, and I've seen this on ESPN a couple of times, where it's like someone comes on and it's like, think about what Deshaun Watson's been through, you know, and you know, I'm like, wait, I'm sorry, what? You know,
we're talking about how shrewd it was. So like, I mean, the most disgusting thing, in my opinion, about this is that they gave him a $1 million base salary,
right? Because they know he's
going to get suspended.
They know he's getting suspended.
Cost him $500,000 at
most. But when we talk about it, and Austin Gale made this point, we have to be clear on what we're talking about and name it. And what we're going to try and do is, when we mention the Browns or Deshaun Watson, we'll bring up the opportunity to donate to something and a group that is actually trying to fight against this in the Ohio Alliance and Sexual Violence. And hopefully that reminds you, to go out and try and do something, right? Because we all have there are, unfortunately, in the NFL and in sports in general, that the NFL is kind of particularly in a bind here. There are an increasing amount, but still way too few, great women in sports, and they add a lot. And it's discouraging when they see something like this, because it's uncomfortable, and they may not speak out about it, and you might say, oh yeah, like they didn't care. I guarantee you they care, and it's not right.
One of my friends, Diana Ma, was saying, and she works for the LA Lakers. She was saying that her first day on the job, they had like a bunch of T-shirts out for everybody, and they were all like men's sizes, right? And sort of it's one of the and like they just didn't think a second time about it. Now they sort of they made it right quickly, but we have to understand what we are doing. We have to understand what we're doing in the context of a league that is becoming increasingly diverse in great ways. But if we continue to do things the way that we've done them, which is in this case overlook what is very, very likely a sexual predator on the Cleveland Browns, we have to understand the message that projects to people who we want to include in this league and in this football world.
You can't only, I think this is the last point I'll make here, you can't only do that when it's convenient. Oh, it's convenient to have Women's Month. Great. Really convenient, right? It's convenient to have Black History Month now. But when it's not convenient, I'm not going to think about it. And that's, I think, the true sign. So let's talk now that we have gotten that across clearly about the Browns. Because what's interesting is that along with a lot of the people watching this happen, there is, I think the $1 million salary for the first year should be pretty indicative of this guy better get a suspension. It better be a pretty long suspension.
Yeah.
And the Cleveland Browns are plus 150 and the favorite to win the AFC North. The Cincinnati Bengals are plus 225, and so are the Baltimore Ravens. And so not only will I be donating to the Ohio Violence and Sexual, I can't even remember the name, the Ohio Alliance to End Sexual Violence, but I will also be making a sizable investment in our Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah,
at plus 225.
The our Ravens I think this is where they opened, right? So when things opened, it was actually Cincinnati that was plus 150 or plus 140, and the Ravens were plus 225. The Browns were north of 3-1 prior to this move. How many things can go wrong for Cleveland here, right? Like
so many.
Yeah.
So many. And I get that they have Amari Cooper, but so
the quarterback hasn't played in a year. And
he's going to be under, when he does come back, there is going to be a lot of scrutiny there. Let's not forget, and I don't, Deshaun Watson's play in his last year with the Texans was amazing. How many games they win?
Right. Well, and when they were winning games, Watson was more of like a top 8 guy than a top 4 guy, which he was when they went 4-12. The other thing, obviously the suspension is going to be I wonder if the league is going to wait and suspend him in a different year after the civil suits happen. But that, if only to screw him over money wise, like that would appear to make the most people happy. But the other thing is, and I think both of us as non-Browns fans would scoff at this, but from what I can tell, Cleveland loved Baker Mayfield. Like this is not a
yeah, but I think that'll be pretty fickle based on the way.
Yeah. But I don't necessarily know if they're this is one of the best fan bases in all of sports.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And I don't know if they're going to get that anymore with this. There are plenty, there are women who host Browns fans podcasts who are saying we're not, or there was a Cleveland Brown, somebody who had 27,000 followers who said, I'm not producing content about this team anymore. It's a pretty, there was a sizable amount of.
You're telling me that the statements from the owner, coach, and GM didn't.
So I don't think that they're going to get the issue that I have, to move on to the other teams though. I think Cincinnati is doing exactly what you want them to do.
Mm-hmm.
Build the offensive line. They're going after Lyle Collins. I think Collins is going to cost them probably more than they want, but I think eventually they're going to get the deal done.
I think they are. He was supposedly here this weekend. Yeah. Went out to dinner, was at a shopping mall taking pictures with fans in Cincinnati.
I got a text from one of my friends who is apparently kind of a big shot here, and was texting Lyle, what do you need? What do you need? And so, but look, that's exactly, it's not as souped up as what the Chargers are doing for Herbert, but it's pretty funny. What do the Bengals need?
Yeah, that's what they need.
That's all they need, right?
But I'll take it one step further. And I think this is the big question for the Bengals and Ravens, and the question that the Browns do not have, which is, what does their offensive scheme look like? And is it one that is really, really good and can be, can take your quarterback and your team and elevate it, to a truly elite level? Because for the Bengals, what happened last year was Joe Burrow did that. And what we've seen with the Ravens is that Lamar Jackson has had to do that as of late, because that scheme has not been able to adjust with some of the injuries, with some of the changes to the way that defenses are playing them. So that is the big question mark. That said, the Ravens at plus 225, after all the injuries they had last year, to me is sleeping on Lamar Jackson, and I wouldn't.
Of the Ravens' final six losses, all but one were by a field goal or less, and more than half of them included Tyler Huntley on the field. Yeah. This is a team that is, as much as people wanted to give Cleveland the sharp card, the Ravens are the original sharp team, and they continue to do things. There's also
There's also the karma, the football gods.
Yeah.
The karma gods are going to be out
for
the Browns this year.
Okay, so we have that division there. That's going to be probably 3 good teams, you'd assume. The AFC West, let's rejigger the odds here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Kansas City plus 150.
Yeah.
Denver plus 250.
Mm-hmm.
LA Chargers plus 275. See, shame and TikTok posts by me.
Yeah.
See, this is market moving. I'm just not a pretty face on the TikTok.
Right.
These are market moves. And then the Las Vegas Raiders. So I think Las Vegas Raiders 7-1, right? Last time we talked about they're 10-1.
Yep.
They get Devontae Adams. They go to 7-1. The interesting part here,
and Chandler Jones, yeah.
And Chandler Jones. The interesting part here is the Raiders' odds have come at the expense of Denver's odds, Kansas City's odds, but not the Chargers' odds.
Interesting.
The Chargers the Chargers were 3-1 just a couple weeks ago, right? 4-1, and then they got all their players. But they were 275 has been where they stood before the Adams trade. So Soren Petro, our friend of the show, a member of the syndicate, was looking at the Broncos schedule. I think that is the one leak. The Broncos have the easiest schedule in the division from what it looks like. But
would you we haven't talked about the Adams trade actually since our last podcast. Would give up a first and a second. Would you have made that move?
On one hand, he's one of the most valuable non-quarterbacks in the entire league.
Mm-hmm.
He also fills a need for that Raiders team that was immense, which is a wide receiver that can get open.
Mm-hmm.
He's also 29 years old. And I know people came at me and said, Jordy Nelson wasn't that good, and James Jones wasn't that good, and Greg Jennings wasn't that good. Every single Packers receiver that left Rodgers started to suck after he left. Now Adams is the best receiver in football. Jordy Nelson was a top 5 receiver for a while. Greg Jennings was close to that. James Jones is never that close, but he also fell off a complete cliff when he left and was good when he came back. So I probably wouldn't do it, but if I was the Raiders, but I understand the Raiders are in a fork in the road. They have 2 choices. One is to completely rebuild and to suck for 2 straight years and wait out. Yeah. Wait until Herbert gets on his max contract. Wait until Wilson falls off, and pray that Patrick Mahomes
looks more like the last year of Patrick Mahomes than 2 years ago.
That and he gets a little jealous of all these deals that are bigger than his now, and he wants a new contract because really Patrick's contract is the only thing keeping the Chiefs cap compliant for the next few years. So that was one fork in the road. The other one is to compete, right? To take McDaniel and his great offensive mind, Derek Carr, a pretty damn good quarterback, Devontae Adams, build a defense that played pretty good for you last year, and keep that together and try to compete in this division. Now, 7-1 odds, right? You're looking at 12.5% break even.
Yeah, it's a lot to try and compete at 7-1 odds.
That's tricky. So I probably would have rebuilt, but I mean, that's just not how folks are doing it this year. The Vikings aren't doing it. The Raiders aren't doing it. We'll see what the Colts do.
We talked about this 2 months ago. What's going to be the ramifications? I don't need to say anymore. It's just, what are the ramifications? The ramifications, in other words, the way that the Rams built their Super Bowl winning team is going to pervade across a lot of different teams. And we're seeing that concentrated a lot in the AFC West. However, AFC East, another place where that's happening with the Bills. They went out and got Von Miller.
By the way, the first member of the vaunted 2018 running back class has reached a second contract.
Oh.
The Seahawks are in agreement on a 1-year deal with one of their own.
Rashad Penny?
Yes. Remember that draft? That was a privilege of a pick, wasn't it? That was so good.
That was really special. So let me give you a couple of bets that I have.
Rashad Penny, by the way, absolutely enormous efficiency statistics. He averaged 6 yards a carry last year. Fucking crazy.
He's going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
That's why they paid him. Some of these moves and the way that I'm betting them. So Ravens, we talked about plus 225. The Bills are the favorite to win the Super Bowl at plus 650. The Bucs are 8-1, and I just don't understand why the Bucs aren't the favorite to win the Super Bowl.
Right.
They are.
Chiefs are now third favorite. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Bills being the favorite.
Packers still 10-1.
The Bills being the favorite. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be or they don't deserve to be, but I just don't understand why. Why are they the favorite? You know, to me, it's very clear cut that a team from the NFC, the best team in the NFC, should be the favorite. I mean, the gauntlet that the AFC is going to have to go through is just insane.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The Bills, one of the reasons possibly is that our friend Jason Fitzgerald at Over the Cap pointed out the Bills are spending the most money this year of any team in the NFL by $25 million so far. Like they are.
Oh, they're going for it.
They're going for it.
But are the Bucs not?
Yeah. Well, and here's my thought, and it coincides with what you're saying pretty definitively. Who got the 1 seed in the AFC this year?
The Tennessee Titans.
Yeah. Where do they play the division?
Yeah, exactly. A shitty division.
Yeah. So the AFC South and the AFC East are two divisions where the winner very well might be the 1 seed. Mm-hmm. Not because they're better, but because
the division sucks.
Yeah, because look, the Chiefs are not going 6-0 in the AFC West again.
Right.
Or they're just not. So, the Chargers aren't, the Broncos aren't. Those teams are going to be 11 and it's the division winner in that division is going to be 11-6,
right? Maybe
10-7.
But
and so they're not. But the problem is, and this is where I think I sort of agree with you on the Bills, which is I think that the fewer buys is really. I mean, I think that the AFC is right for a team to come out of a wild card or a 4 seed and win it because. Of the fact that the 5 and 6 seed in that conference is going to be freaking great, and they're going to be, and they're not. And I think one of the things that was important about the 2021 season, which was there is a definitive advantage to not being the hunted anymore. The defensive coordinators in this league are extremely smart, and they are engineering defenses to stop the top dog, right? So, and that was my whole thesis about you don't win your Super Bowl, right? Because every team is going to engineer their defense to stop Buffalo and Kansas City now.
Yep.
And eventually it's going to be the Chargers. And then eventually, and that's why when Shanahan's teams make a run, they make a run because they're not the team that everybody's building their defense to stop. So if they get through, so in my opinion, the AFC is the AFC has enough diverse and talented football teams, and there's only one team that gets a bye. That I think obviously the odds are a lot higher that you're just going to get somebody. Whereas in the NFC, the 5, 6, and 7 teams in the NFC,
they stink.
They're not going to have a shot in hell. So
they stink. And I will say this: the NFC South,
no chance, but
the NFC South is terrible.
Yeah,
they are terrible.
Yeah,
the Falcons and Panthers both have a shot at being the worst team in the NFL. The Saints will probably be decent because they have some players, and they're probably going to bring Jameis back.
Payton, who's a Hall of Fame coach,
right?
They're going to suck.
They are they don't have that Sean Payton error band where it's we're going to be good even when players get injured and all that stuff. Those 3 teams could all be catastrophically bad. The Bucs are going to skate.
Yeah, they're going to be an NBA team as far as usage.
They are going to skate to the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
The Bills. They certainly do not have the AFC West of a division. However, they have a Dolphins team that
I think the Dolphins are going to be bad this year.
Okay, they could be bad. Are they going to be as bad as the Falcons?
No.
Okay.
And the Jets are probably going to be better for them.
The Jets can't be worse. And then you've got the Patriots and Belichick, who are never a sure out.
Yeah.
So
they're competitive.
So, if you're betting a team to win the Super Bowl right now, and you probably aren't because you're not tying up your money for that long, but if you're in Vegas and you need to make one, the one that I would make right now is the Bucs 8-1.
Bucs were 7-1 to close last year, or no, 7-1. For most of the summer. So you're getting an extra. You're getting a little bit extra here, a couple percent. And so to me, I think you have to consider it. I would not, and I've said this on a few. I would not bet Buffalo at price. I would not bet Kansas City at price. If you're looking for a team in the AFC, it's got to be, to me, it's got to be one of those that playoffs is going to be a war zone.
Yep.
So you got to be looking at Ravens 25-1, Titans 25-1, Bengals 25-1, depending upon who the Colts get, maybe 35-1. I don't know that there's not really a quarterback left for them. Patriots 35-1. Like those are the bets to make. If you lay 13-2 or you take 13-2 with Buffalo, like, and again, like this, the Buffalo Bills, my issue with the Bills is also in with respect to Tampa. At some point, there's got to be a letdown. Like we saw it with the Ravens, where it was like 14-2, bum rush just absolutely go after the league, and then the next year it's like, well, shit, we lost to the Chiefs in week 3. What do we do with our hands, right? And they kind of have a bad year. Buffalo went balls to the wall in 20, AFC title game, beat Kansas City, right? Then kind of like they lost to the Jags. Mm-hmm. They were grinding it out with the Jets with the 2 seed on the line, or the 3 seed on the line in week 18. They were not you had the regression statistically, even though it was very clear that Josh Allen's the same player, but it's just like the outputs were slightly worse. And the thing I wonder about Buffalo is like at some point there's got to be a letdown of like we've played 2 really good seasons and we've gotten to the doorstep 2 times, and like the demoralization of having to go through 17 regular season weeks, possibly a bye, and then have to face what's going to be a murderer's row of teams that are coming for them, the favorite, right? So I agree. That's why. I mean,
plus you have Brady retiring and then unretiring puts this like swan song, like let's go win it for the GOAT mentality. So I like it. I also, I think looking at MVP odds, you have Brady 10-1, and then I also Lamar at 28-1. I think those are interesting. I had one more question for you, which is, so Baker Mayfield's clearly on the move. Where do you think he goes up, and where do you think he goes, and what would you trade for him?
Well, now, not nearly as much as I traded for before.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, what is he going to – like, what are you giving up, a 5th-round pick for him at this point?
I think it's a little bit more.
But they have to trade him.
Yeah, that was the point Spielberger made, again, where we're talking about Watson – and it was abhorrent that this even happened, but the fact that Watson did make the right choice of teams, right? Like this team has 4 picks in the first 120 slots in this draft. They're also going to get the thing that was different between Ryan, whatever Carolina has, and whatever New Orleans has, is once you acquired Watson, you had an asset that somebody else was going to pay for too. So like if he went to Carolina or he went to New Orleans or Atlanta, like not only take the picks out of the equation, but the fact that those rosters, I mean, New Orleans has some good players, but those rosters for the most part stink. Like what would have been left at Atlanta if he got there?
No, they would have been trash.
And so that's, when I think about that, I'm like, okay, so the Browns are probably going to get like a 2nd-round pick for Baker Mayfield.
You think so?
Dude,
who's trading a 2nd-round pick?
Got a 1st-round
yes,
pick.
I get that, but Carson Wentz was on a team that could have run it back with him.
Yeah. Right.
Baker Mayfield has said, I'm out.
Yeah.
They are going to trade him.
Yeah, I guess.
Like, because here's my point. He's not the only guy out there. There are other guys that are still out there.
Right. Jimmy G
is out there. Mariota's out there. I mean, Jameis, it looks like he's going to go back to the Saints, but like theoretically still out there. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be really interesting. What team is there? A team that should have him first on their list?
Well, I think that the Browns have said they don't want to trade him to the Colts because the Colts are within the same conference. Now, I mean, at this point, if you're willing to move on from your quarterback, then
what?
That's like not wanting.
So the Seahawks.
Yeah, the Seahawks, the $31 million. I mean, the Seahawks are another one where this is a very clear rebuild, suck for a while, wait till your division starts to have problems. If the Seahawks get him, that's going to be ugly, I think.
Yes, I agree.
Like they don't accentuate the strengths of any quarterback, and Mayfield's strengths are few. So if he goes there, that's going to be rough. Texans are going with Davis Mills. I actually don't blame him. Bears, I mean, Steelers could be one, but they wouldn't trade him in division. Detroit, but Detroit's
they have a better number 1 pick already.
They have Goff. I mean, I think the Colts make a lot of sense. The Panthers, if they just want to really show their ass again, like this, that would make sense. I think it's Colts or Seahawks.
I think he gets cut.
Wow.
I think he gets cut.
Yeah.
I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth it for a team, for him. I think he gets cut, and then a team signs him to some Trubisky-like deal. What a fall. Before we get on to the end of the show, if you want to bet any of these great bets, you should go to DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. And they have a deal that's too good to pass up. Use promo code PFF. Bet just $1 on any NBA team. And if they win, get $150 in free bets. So then you can go place all of those great futures bets we just talked about with your free bet money. If sportsbooks aren't available in your state, which would suck, but if they are, DraftKings Daily Fantasy has plenty of basketball contests with huge cash prizes, so that you can always make sure you got a little skin in the game. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Bet just $1 on any NBA team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code PFF at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 and over. Minimum age and location requirements vary by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for a full list of requirements and state-specific responsible gaming resources. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Also, if you're looking to get yourself looking a little better, I've heard a you can look at this on Google search, but hot girl summer is starting to pick up a little steam.
Oh
yeah. So members of the syndicate, prepare yourself. We were even talking about Cabo yesterday, so go to Manscaped. Don't show up to a warm weather location looking like a caveman. Get Manscaped and their ultra premium collection, which includes everything from the Lawnmower 4.0, which I have extolled many, many times on this podcast because I actually use it, all the way to conditioner, 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner, I might add, body wash, reinvigorating deodorant, lip balm, and moisturizer. They got it all. It's ultra premium, and it's all there for you with 20% off.
Did we not think to have our premium subscription be called ultra premium? Did we miss an idea there?
Maybe. Get 20% off and free shipping with promo code PFF at manscaped.com. Don't be late to it, by the way. One of my favorite things is when people realize that like summer/spring break is a week away and they go, fuck, I got a diet now. I hate to break it to you, it does not work. So it's also not going to work if that's the first time that you think you're going to just trim up and it's going to look good. Nah, it ain't. So go to Manscaped right now and be prepared when summer hits. All right, we've got a few things here. Let's go with a little ball sack or just whack.
Speaking of. Okay. I got a few of them. Here's one.
Wait, has Manscaped not listened to the show and realized that they need to sponsor the ball sack or just whack segment?
Come get us.
Because not only do they promote the lack of whack near the ball sack. They want to make sure that you're not just going down there whacking away and ending up a mess on the floor,
This is
blood everywhere.
This is like, I'm thinking of like
those Reds, am I right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God.
No one's going to one person in the world is going to get that joke.
It'll cost you a little bit more, but come get us. All right. Michael Jordan shot 74% on the fadeaway at age 42.
Oh no.
LeBron James shoots 76% from the line at age 37. There's no comparison.
Oh no. So there is no way that they have that ridiculous stat on fadeaways.
Barney from How I Met Your Mother just made up statistics.
This is completely made up. This is Ballsack, but I bet you it got a lot of people.
Am I right? Yeah, there was 80. This was yesterday when I cropped it. 8,600 likes, 208 replies, 600 retweets. So, yeah, there's a picture of Michael Jordan in his Wizards uniform with two wrapped up knees. It's pretty amazing. Okay, the next one. This is pretty good. I'm the guy in the casino at the roulette table who keeps betting the same number until it hits. I'm still betting on Carson Wentz, and as long as he has a starting job, I'm placing bets.
This is the part about the roulette table is so fucking stupid. And so
to be honest, so is going into a year with Carson Wentz.
My point is, But that actually then makes sense. Like this person to me makes sense as a human, even though they make no sense in real life, like based on what they're talking about. I believe this is real. Who's this? Acho?
See, now you get bonus points for finding out who it is.
Wait, it was actually Emmanuel Acho.
I was gonna give you a shot. This is Emmanuel Acho.
That guy is a Skip Bayless on steroids.
I thought you were gonna say crack cocaine.
Yeah, maybe.
So
have you watched First Take? You probably never watch it.
I don't watch ESPN.
You know who Mad Dog is?
No.
Okay, so he's like this guy that is a radio guy from New York. He looks very similar to Skip Bayless. Yeah. He's like a short white dude with a lot of pep in his step, but he's actually like tempered enough and like logical enough that he's like likable Skip Bayless, and it's the funniest fucking thing to watch. Awesome. But anyways, I digress.
Okay. Emmanuel Acho, by the way, my most engaged. So we send our numbers into like Austin or whatever. One of my most engaged tweets the other day was when I tweeted out Emmanuel Acho, director of social media, Ballsack Sports.
I mean,
can you find a more perfect fit after a week where players on teams couldn't have been more oiled? It's
a match
and
made
water.
in heaven.
That's a match made in heaven. Okay, one more. This is quote tweeting a picture of the Loyola losing to Ohio State 11-13 with 6 minutes left in the first half of their game. Yeah, I made a few jokes about Loyola.
That game is illegal.
Not your Loyola, but a Loyola team nonetheless. The tweet was, I actually prefer this over whatever form of leather toss the Lakers play over there. That AARP walk transition defense looks like the elderly in my neighborhood on Sunday evenings. It was in response to somebody who said there's no way that people actually prefer college basketball to the NBA, which people do. I don't get it either, but people do.
Those people are all morons. You're an idiot. I think that is a real person because I kind of agree. The Lakers are an absolute travesty.
No, it's Ballsack Sports.
Damn it.
Ballsack Sports had a few tweets. The other had
that's my first L in a while.
It is. Ballsack Sports had some tweets that were very like fun and very like I prefer college basketball because people try harder and like all the tropes,
I mean,
and it's like, and I thought like I'm like these guys really get it. They get how to troll because that's like there's nothing that makes me like. And it's around Easter time, right? We go to family members and everybody's just like, and it's like one of those tweets was like, nobody, my brother-in-law. Oh man, I really like college basketball. It's so much better than these people just playing one-on-one out around the arc all day. And it's like, no one asked you. Literally no one asked you. Well, I was sweating over this stupid Wisconsin basketball is the most abhorrent version of college basketball, and I managed not to say anything.
Yeah, people's sports takes suck. I think that's the moral of the story. Yeah. All right, recommendations here. You have a good recommendation that I'm actually excited because I've seen some commercials about this, but I want to talk a little Formula One here for a second.
Okay.
Because we said we were going to talk more about betting on other sports, and in complete fairness, like it's a very hipster thing to like, and I like it. And that is Formula One. I haven't watched the most recent season of Drive to Survive yet, but I did make a nice. I'm 1 for 1. First race of the season, first Grand Prix of the season was this morning. Charles Leclerc, who had the pole position, is in Ferrari, drives for Ferrari, young guy, was actually underdog to Max Verstappen, who was in second position. And so I bet Leclerc at plus 195. Verstappen was like plus 115. And I thought that Verstappen was going to rip my heart out. The reason that he was the favorite was Red Bull and Ferrari both have great cars, extremely fast. But Verstappen won last year. And I think there was this sense, it's like, okay, he's going to outmaneuver him. He's going to figure it out. He's a tenacious driver. And he actually melted down in the race. It was actually pretty funny. Mm-hmm. And Leclerc and Ferrari, drove really, really, really freaking well. And so that's me touting my own self for thinking correctly. What's interesting though, and I wanted to bring this up because when you start to dig into Formula One, one of the very interesting things is that there are 10 teams, but there are only 4 makers of engines, or what they call power units.
Gotcha.
And the most popular power unit, this is very similar to what the Rams have done, what you see in the NFL, which is what wins one year becomes very popular the next. So Mercedes.
What is the investment that a team has to make to change power sources?
So you sign up for a year or however many years, and you can change them, but you're not changing them mid-season. Like that's just not happening. So Mercedes builds their own engines, but they also build the engines for Aston Martin and McLaren, and I think Williams as well. So 4 of the 10 teams are using Mercedes power units, and 2 of those teams, Aston Martin and McLaren, just sucked. They were awful. They were in the back 6 of the people that finished this week. And so it's very interesting to me. And now I do think Mercedes will probably figure it out a little bit because they have 2 great drivers in Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. They ended up coming in 3rd and 4th because both Red Bull cars shat themselves and did not finish the race. But it was noteworthy to see and interesting to think about as you're going into new sports or starting to bet new sports, identifying some of those things that happen within sports that are kind of similar across, where it's a copycat league out here. Ferrari builds their own engines. Honda builds engines. They build them for Red Bull.
Nice.
Both those cars look tremendously fast. I would say going forward, my takeaway from this race was even though Ferrari had the better car and won the race, the Red Bull car appeared to be faster in the straightaways. And so I'm anticipating a little value to be had on Verstappen and Red Bull coming up. The odds to win the F1 World Championship right now, Charles Leclerc plus 165, Max Verstappen with Red Bull plus 185, Lewis Hamilton with Mercedes is plus 275. So if you think Mercedes turns it around, you've got Lewis there. That is my Formula One update. And now, do you have any questions for me, the expert on Formula One?
No, I think we're going to, whether it's this podcast or a different one, we're going to talk a little bit about, just some introductory modeling of the USFL. Again, not like kind of the same principles as you're talking about, which is look at where the market is, look at the data you have available, making some sort of judgments there. But I personally, as your friend, I'm like really pumped that you like this. Like I think we all become like too alike, right? And I like the fact that you like something that I have no interest in, because then I learn something new every time you talk about it. So I think that's fun. Okay.
Recommendation time.
My recommendation. This is on Apple TV, the same place you can get Ted Lasso. This is, I believe, based on this book, although I actually have to.
Is it based on the book? I wasn't sure about that.
It coincides very cleanly with what the book. The book is $1 Billion Loser, which is the epic rise and spectacular fall of WeWork. It's by Reeves Wiederman. It's basically about their founder and. And so now, if you don't want to read the book, and it is a long book, it's kind of arduous. On Apple TV, there is called We Crashed, which is interesting. It's
a great name.
Yeah, it has
great name.
Jared Leto as the CEO and founder of WeWork, and then Anne Hathaway plays his wife, who and she's wonderful in it. Like she does a really good job of playing this the caricature that they describe her in the book, which was extremely supportive, almost to a culty kind of like pastor's wife type.
Interesting. I got that vibe. Yeah. I've seen the trailer a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I definitely got that vibe. I also got that vibe from Jared Leto's character, who is the CEO, that he had a very shaman cult-ish leader vibe to him.
So they have retreats where they have retreats for their workers and stuff, and it's very Burning Man type stuff, and so there's 3 episodes that you can watch now. The 4th one comes out Friday. I think it's going to be a series that goes for a little bit. The book is great. It's an interesting sort of, again, I think I don't want to give too much of it away, but it was very like they do him no favors, I would say.
I can't imagine they do.
In this show, which is interesting.
That is, I do want to watch it. I don't know when I'm going to get to it, because I also, as I said, want to watch Drive to Survive season 4 and try and actually watch the live events that are happening. So I probably won't, but when I do get some time, I will check that out. That is our show for this beautiful Sunday. We hope you enjoy it. We'll be back with you on Wednesday. Thank you to every member of the syndicate. We love you. Peace out.